entitled parents. Entitled mom doesn't know how Tridge works. I work at a pediatric emergency room. I encounter lots of entitled parents, but this mom from last night almost made me lose my shit. She had taken her son in because he had an unusual rash on his arm. She was very distressed that entire night and often came up to me to ask how long they would have to keep waiting. I said there weren't enough rooms for everyone to be seen quickly and apologized for the long wait. Maybe 2 hours after they had come, a teenage girl had been taken in by her father. He had to carry her because she was losing consciousness, felt extremely cold, and was delirious. Obviously she had to be seen immediately because we suspected she was septic. Patient quickly got moved to the PICU, and a wait time for this patient would likely mean death. The mom accused me of lying, that there weren't enough rooms because this girl had gotten a room instantly. I wish people understood that we need to prioritize who gets seen first. Story 2. Entitled father wants me to pay the electric bill, but also control the electricity I use. I unfortunately had to move back home with my dad. Long story. His home has solar, and he pays about $89 a month for the panels, but considers it a bill that should be shared, and since he pays for it, he feels entitled to control my electricity usage. I tried to keep my usage to a reasonable level, or what I perceived was a level he felt reasonable. I sometimes sat in my room in the dark during peak hours, or I kept the air conditioning at around 80°F. Eventually a panel stopped functioning, and he didn't keep track of each panel's output. Long story short, it resulted in a $500 electricity bill at the end of the year. Before he made the discovery, he continually yelled at me and blamed me for energy consumption because he noticed the monthly electricity bill started to add up since the panels weren't producing enough energy to keep up. He just assumed I was using a lot of electricity while he was at work and didn't even bother to check to see if the panels were functioning. I do use most of the energy. I'm home a lot more than he is, so I agreed to pay for that bill. I figured that would stop his constant complaining, but it didn't. He finally decided to check out the panel's output and saw that a panel was down, which contributed to that $500 bill. I kept my mouth shut to keep the peace, but I was fuming on the inside. The following year, again he says he sees the bill rising and that it is due to a broken panel, so I told him not to worry and just give me the bill when it arrives. I figured that would be the end of it, since he knows he won't be responsible for any balance at the end of the year. I was wrong. He still feels entitled to control whatever electricity I use. I do pay him rent on top of the electricity bill, so I don't see what the issue is. He says since he pays that $89 a month for the panels, that he can control my electricity usage because he thinks he's being nice by not asking me to pay half. I was looking forward to decorating outside for Halloween and giving out candy. I decorated last Halloween and dressed up to give candy out. The kids absolutely loved it, and it made me feel it was all worth the effort. He said no, because of the electricity usage. Keep in mind most of my decorations use batteries or are solar powered. The only energy consumption is with the LED rope lights I put on the ground to light up the walkway. Halloween is my favorite holiday, and once again he takes the opportunity to crush my spirit. I have so many similar stories. This is just a small example of his controlling behavior. Story 3. My entitled aunt is mad at me for not taking my entitled cousin's dog out for a walk. Let's start from there. There are 4 living in the family: my aunt, my grandmother, and my 2 cousins, EC, age of 14, and GC, age of 11. I'm a 16-year-old boy. They live 15 minutes away from my house. Well, I had just woken up and I was lying on the bed and scrolling TikTok when I got a call from my aunt. I answered, and he told me that Luke was not at home, neither was she, and Nika had broken his right hand and was afraid of falling or something. It is quite a big dog, and it could easily have happened. Without even thinking, I told her that I would walk the dog because I have walked their dog many times, because I respect my grandmother and I know it would be inappropriate for me to refuse. Too many times I didn't walk my own dog and gone down to their house, whether it's been raining, heat waves, stormy, or just I was feeling plain lazy, and yet I've never refused. I got up, got ready, and my mother was making a new dish, and I was hungry. I sat down to eat and went to their place. My dad asked me to buy our dog food, so I also did that. All this took exactly 30 to 40 minutes and I went down to their place with quick steps. I got there, and oh my goodness, Luca with only his underwear is lying in front of the TV and watching. My grandmother is fussing in the kitchen and Nika is in his room. Luke rudely told me that the dog had already been taken out, so I was surprised because Luke wasn't dressed and my grandmother is too old to take him out. I got up and went into Nika's room and asked who took the dog out. I was told by an 11-year-old crippled child who is barely a kilo of a dog that he took the dog for a walk. It got on my nerves because Luke was at home. My aunt lied to me and Luke scored with his laziness. He has done this many times, complained to his mother about taking the dog out, and in the end they washed their hands on me. 2 days pass, and I was with my grandmother. My aunt met me on the way out. I was with my friends and my girlfriend, and she said the following thing to me: "Couldn't you have come a little earlier?" What a behavior. It's like it's my fault that his son was sitting on his ass and I was obliged to take him for a walk, when I repeat, Luke was at home, doing nothing, and he just got lazy, and I, who live 15 minutes away, had to go out on my own errands, and still got up and went down. I would have understood if I tossed them away. I have never asked anyone to walk my dog from that family, and even if I asked, no one would ever agree. However, I don't understand why they ask me to walk the dog, why they insult me, and why they have complaints. I didn't ask for that dog, and whoever did should take a responsibility. I just had enough respect to not reject them and actually wanted to help out, and they don't even respect me for that. I do not know what to do. She totally embarrassed me, and I feel really mad at Luke for pulling this act. Story 4. Entitled Mom Gets Mad at My Mom and Her Robotic Kid, Me. A bit of context for the story. I'm type 1 diabetic and people can tell pretty easily. My mom and I are part of a charity group and we love the moms in our group. Except for this mom, EM. EM constantly made trouble with me and my mom, which my mom is our class leader. From interrupting our class meetings so her daughter, who has autism, could take a brain break, to mocking me for having diabetes. Like, I understand that people with autism can get overstimulated very easily, but her daughter seemed fine and generally annoyed from the brain breaks. I probably shouldn't make assumptions, but IDK. One day, my class went to our friend's Indian dance graduation and we all dressed for the occasion. Since it's a pretty big milestone for her, EM refused to dress up, and I thought that maybe she felt uncomfortable wearing the Indian clothing we were given. During the whole performance, which was 3 hours long, she was on her phone. Now I understand how a child can get bored, but you're a grown woman. Her daughter could sit still and watch the entire 3-hour-long performance, so why couldn't she? During dinner she refused to eat the Indian food we were given, saying that it looked gross. Indian food isn't for everyone, but you're at a cultural experience, at least try it. After the whole thing, my mom and I were heading back to the car when we heard EM call for us. She handed her daughter's Indian costume back to us, and while complaining to my mom about how hard it was for her daughter to do her job in our class, my insulin pump sent an alarm that my BG levels were high. "Why does your alarm have to go off all the time? It's so annoying," EM shouts at me. "Sorry, EM, I can't control it," I told her, but she could care less. "You should be ashamed having a robotic daughter. She should just learn to suck it up," EM shouts at my mom. "Mom, stop calling her a robot. She's not a robot, she's just different," EM's daughter says to her, and EM scoffs. "You know what? Clearly no one is on my side. Maybe I should leave this group and it'll be all your fault. Don't be upset when you want me back. I hate you and your stupid pathetic daughter, bitch," EM shouts, clearly pointing out my boyish hair and dragging her poor daughter along with her. Now I'm biologically female, but I prefer a more masculine look and currently go by any pronouns. I've had gender dysphoria before, but she made me feel really bad about it just then. I know this isn't the most exciting story, but I just wanted to get it off my chest. Story 5. My father decided to take the car wheel from my hands in a bad situation, and then got angry at me when I stepped on the brake. Hi y'all, Candy here. It's been a while since I haven't wrote anything on this sub, even though I have another story ready beside this one, but I need to finish it. To give some background to this story, Since my mother wasn't at home around dinner, my father said that I could either go to the local McDonald's to get something or sort it out myself. I choose to go the McDonald's, and he proposed to let me drive his car, a good BMW. I won't give details, car that I don't actually know how to drive cause it's way more responsive than the one I'm accustomed to. We got to McDonald's and came back with no problems. There rose when he decided to change the plans and make me return home with the car. Now coming to the story. As I said, he wanted to drive back home with his car. He wanted to be dropped off near the entrance of my hometown. Only that Mr. Parent of the Year decided to take the wheel from my hands while near some cars, a wall and almost on the sidewalk. Some instinct I didn't even know kicked in and made me step on the brake as the car was approaching all the things I listed, but since of the responsiveness I mentioned, it made the car literally halt almost in the middle of the road. Now, coming back to Mr. Parent of the Year, started yelling in my face, punching me, and threatening me to park the car, where he told me, only to change his mind and make me go home with him aboard, blattering insults and other stuff in my face. And as soon as I tried to say that normally people don't put their hands on the wheel, especially when I'm driving a car like this, that only contributed to escalate the situation further, with more punches, threats, and insults. The only funny part in this shit show is him, that he is going by foot from the house to my hometown center, which is a 10 to 15 minutes walk on a road with almost no sidewalk for the majority of it. It makes me laugh only imagining his thought process, if there was one. Oh, and also, it's raining. Even if not that much though. One last thing, while I was writing this, my mother called, yes, the same person from other stories I posted. She was trying to assert damages, which fortunately there weren't any, that I can see at least. Her other objective was to tell me your father's like this, and that I need to have a self-preservation mentality. Basically, don't argue with idiots or crazy people, you'll make your situation worse, but put in a way where it looked almost like she too was blaming me for defending myself. I'm glad she agreed with me after I explained her that I understood her point, but her way of putting it was not the best way to comfort your son after getting basically abused by your husband. I've gotta admit, that was kinda wholesome of her, her attentions at least. Thank you.